Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving deep today on two AIs everyone's talking about, DeepSeek R1 and Grok 3. We're going to break them down, see what they're good at, see where they struggle a little bit, and by the end, you'll know which one is right for you. One's the open source champ, the other comes straight out of Elon Musk's XAI. One's great at coding, the other's a research hound. Let's get into it.
Yeah, it's really interesting how these AIs almost represent different philosophies of intelligence.
Yeah.
One that's about deep thought and really going back to the sources, and one that's really about being plugged in real time to what's going on.
Yeah, almost like a historian versus a journalist.
Totally.
So let's start with the basics. DeepSeek R1, this open source model, a lot of people are praising it for its accuracy, research capabilities, and this is what caught my eye, the whole source citation thing. It tells you where it got its info from.
That's a game changer, especially these days. If you're a student writing a paper or even just, fact-checking something you read online, DeepSeek will not just give you an answer, it'll show you its work, so to speak. You can follow the trail, see the evidence.
That's huge, especially for anyone who needs that reliability. Now, on the other side, we have Grok 3, straight from Elon Musk's XAI. It's been in the news for its real-time interaction, creativity, and even coding abilities. And get this, it pulls insights from social media, which keeps it really up to date.
Grok 3 is like that friend who's always plugged into the latest trends, the one who can whip up a poem on the fly or help you troubleshoot your website. It's designed to be really fast, fluid, and, in tune with what's happening online.
Okay, so we got the deep thinker versus the social butterfly. But how do they actually perform when put to the test? We've got some analyses to dig into, and I'm really curious which one comes out on top in different areas.
Well, first up, coding and problem solving. Here, Grok 3 really has an edge. It generates clean code, it's optimized, and here's the thing, it gives you detailed explanations for every step. It's like having a coding tutor built right in.
But wouldn't that make a programmer, overly reliant on the AI? Could that potentially hinder the development of their own coding skills?
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's a conversation we need to be having as these tools become more and more sophisticated, right? It's like finding that balance, using AI to enhance our skills versus becoming totally dependent on it.
Okay, interesting point. So Grok 3 might be great for beginners or for quick fixes, but you got to remember that real mastery comes from understanding those underlying concepts. Let's move on to math and logical reasoning. Which AI reigns supreme when it comes to the world of numbers and logic?
So DeepSeek R1, it really shines here. It gives you accurate solutions, but it's also really good at breaking down complex problems, step by step. So it's not just about getting the right answer. It's about understanding the why behind the solution.
So if you're struggling with, say, a tough calculus problem, DeepSeek R1 could actually help you understand the concepts, not just spit out the final answer.
Yeah, exactly. It could be a game changer for students or anyone who needs to grasp the logic behind those mathematical concepts.
All right, so round one goes to Grok 3 for coding, but DeepSeek R1 takes the lead in logic. Now let's get a little creative here. Writing and conversations. Which AI would you want as your writing partner or chatbot buddy?
When it comes to generating engaging human-like text, Grok 3 is the clear winner. Creative writing, storytelling, even just fun, witty conversations, it just excels. It's pulling from this vast, pool of online interaction, so the text feels really natural.
Makes sense with that social media connection, right?
Yeah.
It's like Grok 3 has absorbed the collective voice of the internet.
Right.
But how does DeepSeek R1 handle these creative tasks?
It tends to be more formal, more technical. It's good for reports or research papers where accuracy and clarity are key, but maybe not your first choice for crafting a, compelling short story.
So DeepSeek's a reliable reporter. Grok 3 is the imaginative storyteller. I can see how both have their place. All right. Next up, research and factual accuracy. I have a feeling DeepSeek R1 might take the lead here, but let's see what the data tells us.
Well, as you might expect, DeepSeek R1 really excels in this area. It's committed to providing sources, so it's super trustworthy. You can dive into the research yourself, verify the info, see where it's all coming from.
I can see that being invaluable, especially these days where misinformation spreads so easily. It's like having a personal fact checker.
Yeah.
But how does Grok 3 handle research, especially given that it pulls info from social media?
It can provide information, but it doesn't always cite its sources, So it might be good for getting a quick overview, but not the best for in-depth research.
Okay, so Grok 3 is like a quick Google search. DeepSeek R1 is the research librarian. Now that we've seen how they perform on different tasks, I'm kind of curious about the technical stuff, like how much information they can process at once, whether they can handle images and videos, those kinds of things that can really impact which AI is best for a specific job.
Absolutely. You're right. Let's talk about something called context window. Think of it as the AI's short-term memory.
Okay, so like how much it can keep in mind at once.
Exactly. Grok 3 has a context window of 1 million tokens. That means it can handle huge amounts of text in a single conversation or task.
That's wild. Does that mean it can like understand the nuances of a long conversation or analyze an entire book?
It certainly has the capacity for it, which is, pretty interesting. Now, DeepSeek R1, it has 128,000 tokens. Decent, but, significantly less.
So Grok's reading the whole encyclopedia. DeepSeek's focusing on a chapter.
Hmm.
Okay, what about handling different types of input, like images and videos?
That's what we call multimodal capabilities. Grok 3 is multimodal, so it can handle both text and visual information. DeepSeek R1, though, is limited to text only for now.
So Grok 3 can analyze a video and tell you what's happening or describe an image in detail.
Yeah, exactly. It opens up a whole bunch of possibilities, from content creation to analysis.
This is showing just how different their strengths are. One's a multimedia master, the other's a text whiz. But let's be practical here. How do they compare when it comes to speed and cost? Even the smartest AI is useless if it takes forever to run or costs a fortune.
Right, that's definitely something to consider. And it often comes down to a trade-off. So speed-wise, Grok 3 is generally faster, but it can be more resource-intensive.
So the speed demon that might need a powerful computer to run smoothly.
Yeah, you could say that. DeepSeek R1, though, it's known for being more efficient and cost-effective.
Okay, so the reliable workhorse that gets the job done without breaking the bank. We've covered a lot here. From coding and math to creative writing and research, we've even gotten into those technical specs that make them tick. It's clear both DeepSeek R1 and Grok 3 bring something unique to the table, but I'm sure our listeners are wondering.
Which one is right for them? And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about after a quick break. We'll break it all down and help you decide which AI deserves a spot in your digital toolkit.
We're back and ready to help you figure out which of these AIs is right for you. We've gone over a lot, from their coding abilities to how they handle research, even those tech specs. So let's get down to it. Which AI should you be using?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? I know we've thrown a lot of information your way, so let's try to simplify it a bit.
Exactly. So starting with Grok 3. From what we've seen, it's the one for people who need speed, want to be creative, and, stay on top of the latest trends. If you're a coder who needs help brainstorming, or a writer looking for inspiration, or you just want to have a witty conversation with an AI, Grok 3 seems like the way to go.
It's like, imagine you're working on a website and you get stuck on a coding problem. Grok 3 can not only give you solutions, but actually walk you through the logic, step by step, almost like having like a senior developer, right there to guide you.
That's a great way to put it. But wouldn't that level of hand-holding make someone rely too much on the AI? Could it actually hurt their coding skills in the long run?
It's a good question, and it really shows why it's so important to use these tools, strategically. The key is to use AI to make us better, not to completely replace our own skills.
Right. It's all about balance.
Yeah.
So Grok 3 might be amazing for beginners or when you need a fast solution. But we got to remember that the best way to master something is to understand it from the ground up.
Let's talk about DeepSeek R1 now. It seems to be the champ when it comes to research, accuracy, and just plain logic.
For sure. DeepSeek R1, yeah, that's a strong suit.
Yeah.
Imagine you're, let's say, a student, right? And you're researching a topic for a paper. DeepSeek R1 won't just give you info, it'll show you exactly where it comes from. You can actually click the links to the sources, double-check everything, and really dive into the research yourself.
That's so important these days, especially with all the misinformation out there. It's almost like having a personal research assistant who also makes sure everything's accurate and trustworthy.
Exactly.
And we can't forget its logic skills. Whether you're trying to solve a tough math problem or figure out a complicated argument, DeepSeek R1 can help break it down so you understand the logic behind it and get to a solid conclusion.
Yeah, it can definitely help you see the bigger picture. So it seems like Grok 3 is kind of like the innovator, always moving fast, and DeepSeek R1 is the scholar, the one who takes their time and gets things right. They both have their strengths and weaknesses, and the best one for you really depends on what you need it for.
Here's something to consider, though. If your work or projects often involve sharing information with others, DeepSeek R1's ability to, show all its sources can be a huge plus. It makes your work more transparent and trustworthy, which can be really important in a lot of professional settings.
That's a really good point, especially in fields like journalism, academia, even business, right? Being able to show where your info comes from is crucial. But let's say you're working on something creative, like writing a story or composing music. In those cases, Grok 3's fluency and creativity might be more appealing.
Definitely. The key is to use the right tool for the job. And remember, these AIs are always evolving, so we're probably going to see even more cool features and abilities pop up, which might blur those lines even further.
That's exciting to think about. It feels like we're just scratching the surface of what AI can do. We talked earlier about Grok 3 pulling insights from social media, which is cool for staying current, but isn't there a risk of it picking up bias or misinformation from those sources? I mean, social media isn't always the most reliable, right?
Yeah, that's a really important point, and it shows why we can't just blindly trust anything an AI tells us, no matter how smart it seems.
Yeah.
We still need to use our own judgment.
So even with these advanced AIs, we got to stay critical, question the results, maybe even double-check the information. Basically, we need to treat it like any other source of info.
Exactly. We need to be smart about how we use AI, not just passively accept whatever it throws at us. It's about understanding what it's good at, but also knowing its limits and using it responsibly to make our work better.
That's a great point to end on. This has been a really insightful conversation, and I think our listeners now have a much better idea of which AI might be the best fit for them.
I hope so. The whole goal here at the Deep Dive is to make you curious, get you thinking, and give you the tools to navigate this amazing world of technology.
And remember, the learning doesn't stop here. Keep exploring, keep asking those tough questions, and keep diving deep into this fascinating world of AI.
Absolutely.
So what happens when we start thinking about the ethics of all of this? We talked a lot about what these AIs can do, but what about making sure they're used in a way that benefits everyone, not just a select few? So what happens when we start thinking about the ethics of all of this? We've talked a lot about what these AIs can do, but what about making sure they're used in a way that benefits everyone, not just a select few?
That's a huge question and a really important one. As AI gets more powerful, we really have to make sure it's used ethically, and that means thinking about the impact it has on everyone, not just the people who build it or use it.
Right, because just because we can do something with AI doesn't mean we should, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, we have the power to split the atom, but that doesn't mean we should be using nuclear weapons.
Okay, that's a pretty intense analogy, but I get your point.
hmm
So how do we make sure AI is used for good? Where do we even begin with that?
Well, I think the first step is to acknowledge that AI is a tool, right? And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad. It all depends on the intentions of the people using it.
So it's not really about the AI itself being good or bad. It's about the choices we make as humans when we use it.
Exactly. We need to be mindful of the potential consequences of our actions and make sure we're using AI in a way that aligns with our values.
Okay, that makes sense. But it's also kind of overwhelming, right? I mean, AI is so complex and it's changing so fast. It can feel like we're just along for the ride.
I get that. It can definitely feel that way. But I think the key is to stay informed and engaged. The more we understand about AI, the better equipped we'll be to make sure it's used in a way that benefits humanity.
So what can our listeners do? Are there specific steps they can take to make a difference?
Absolutely. First of all, just being aware of the ethical implications of AI is a big step. Asking questions like, who built this AI? What data was it trained on? Who benefits from its use? And who might be harmed?
It's like doing your own research before you trust an AI's output. Just like you wouldn't believe everything you read on the internet, right?
Right. And don't be afraid to challenge the results. If something seems off or biased or just plain wrong, speak up. The more we question and scrutinize AI, the better it will become.
That makes sense. So it's like the responsibility falls on all of us, not just the tech experts, to make sure AI is used ethically.
I think so. It's a shared responsibility, and I'm optimistic that we can get it right. If we approach AI with a sense of humility and a commitment to ethical principles, I think we can create a future where AI truly benefits everyone.
I like that. A sense of humility. I think that's key. We can't let ourselves get so caught up in the hype that we lose sight of the human element.
Exactly. At the end of the day, AI should be a tool that helps us live better lives, not something that controls us or dictates our future.
Well said. I think that's a great note to wrap things up on. This has been an incredible deep dive, and I feel like we've covered so much ground. We've gone from comparing coding styles to pondering the ethics of AI and everything in between.
It's been a great discussion. I'm glad we could have it.
Me too. And a huge thanks to our listeners for joining us on this journey. We hope you've learned something new and maybe even feel inspired to keep exploring the world of AI.
Absolutely. The more we learn and understand about AI, the better prepared we'll be to shape its future.
Couldn't agree more. This is The Deep Dive, signing off. We'll see you next time.